Hello, I'm Alice, Education Consultant for LCP, and today we're going to be running a webinar on the admin side of iASEND. Now, just to let you know, this is a rehearsal, so obviously you can see there's no participants because we can't record the actual webinars. If you do have any questions in light of this webinar, please pop us an email at support@lcp.co.uk. Now, let's have a look into the account. So the first page that you can see right in front of you should be the home page. Now that home page is actually where you will have found the information about our webinars, but it's also the place that we put any up-to-date information about the account. If it is important, if you are the admin of iASEND, that you do keep up to date with that information, because obviously we do make changes to reflect the education climate. So let's look at our users first. There are two types of users within iASEND. You've got the admin account, which has access to absolutely everything, and you have the teacher account that has access to all of the data, but not some of the things like importing pupils and the filters. So to create a new login, you click here to add a new login. Now iASEND works a little bit different to our sister program iTrack, in that the email address is actually very, very important, and you use your email address to log in. This is why if you have if you're sort of in charge of several schools that have iASEND, you'll need a different email address for each account, or you need to have one big account that you log in several different, you access different children from different schools. Here's where also you choose the admin, whether you're an admin or a teacher account. So you simply create the user. The user will then be sent an email which they need to verify to get into their iASEND account. It is down to the admin user to be in charge of this rather than LCP. So obviously you need to make sure this reflects your current staffing list. Now, if you do need to edit anybody, you've got this little pencil here. You just go into edit, and that will change that information. And obviously, to delete people is here. So yes, and that's nice and easy. Right, let's look at school year. Now, within iASEND, we can hold up to sort of year 15, as it were. So obviously if a child leaves, it will store the data unless you purposely delete them. If you do delete them, so perhaps you're deleting them to use your account for somebody else, that's absolutely fine. You need to export the data, because once it's deleted, it is deleted. The child has gone from your system. We don't store the data once it's been deleted. So please export it before deleting. Obviously with the children working, who are in year 15 and 14 even, or, 12 and 13 even, they need to be working on Key Stage 4. We do hold up to 3 years worth of historic data as well, if you do keep them on the system. Let's go into preferences. So preferences is important to reflect your how you're going to be tracking your children. What you have got is the option to enable display of nursery year 1 pupils data. You've also got the option of choosing assessment periods. Now these assessment periods you're designed to use iASEND consistently and quite regularly. So you'd be putting that data in, and then the assessment periods allows you to compare between those points of time. So for example, if you chose 3, you've got 3 points of time to compare between. Obviously with children that you're perhaps putting into iASEND, you'll want to track those smaller steps of progress. So we do recommend putting 6 into your account. That will also equate to the half terms. So that way you can track the progress for each half term. And then you do have the option to baseline or not. You don't have to. A lot of schools think you do. You don't have to. You can just start assessing assessment point 1. It's just if you want to compare from very much their starting point. That is down to you. Now, with iASEND, you've got lots of places that you can get some help. We're not here to leave you on your own. So you should have your education consultant, so you should know who that is. That will be either me or Jack. You've then got obviously the support desk, which if you click support, that will bring up a ticket and they can answer any questions that you may have. We are open 9 till 5. You've also got our help centre, which brings up some guides. Now this is actually currently under review, so there will be new information available shortly. Now the last thing I will mention about is printing. So if you're going to print any page within iASEND, you need to make sure that you click more settings and click tick background graphics. Now, if you're using cookies within your system, it should save that, but it is worth checking just before you print. The reason is some of that page may not print if you don't tick that button. So just make sure that you do. Now, let's make sure that we've got our children into the system. There are a couple of ways to add children in. The first option is to do a CTF. A CTF comes from your MIS system, so something like Sims or Bromcom, or there's obviously lots and lots of options. So you need to create that within your Sims account, or get your with the specific children that are in there. What you'll then need to do is then save it into your documents, and then upload it by choosing the file and then import pupils. So really, really nice and simple. That's obviously if you're doing several different children. If you've only got one or two, you may want to add them in manually. So to add a child in manually, you need to go to pupil details. You've then got this button saying click here to add a new pupil. So you click here to add a new pupil. You do need to know the child's UPN number. That cannot be changed at a later date, so it is important to have that in accurately. You've then got the option of obviously filling in the information. Where it says English, Maths, Science, Computing, iASEND, that means the curriculum. Now, when you first started with iASEND, you should have been told what those different curriculums mean, but the A curriculum is a sort of similar level to P1 to 4. It's not the P levels, it's just a similar level. S is same again, similar level to P5 to 8, not the P levels, we just had to benchmark it against something. E is Key Stage 1, N is Key Stage 2, and D is Key Stage 3. So you need to set up their starting points, obviously the date they enter, and then what you'll notice all the way from class all the way downwards, these are filters. If you did want to allocate filters, you don't need to. What you need to fill in is the boxes that are start. The last thing you'll need to do is set up their SEND profile. This can be changed at any time, but this is where it's going to focus in on those barriers to learning. So if you don't know the child yet, put something in from just sort of initially, and then come back and change as needed. So that's going to import your children in. So you can either do the CTF transfer or you can add them in manually. The next thing that you'll definitely need to do, especially if you've done the CTF, is you'll need to set up the children's barriers to learning. So you need to choose the year group. So let's choose, like, for example, year 2, press go. I then select on this little human here, and this is where I can set up the barriers to learning. Now, if I hover over the dots, I can then see the information about what that means. So I'm not having to just do a wild guess. As you can see, there's lots of different information. Like I said before, you can come back and change them, especially if obviously it's the beginning of the term and you don't know the child that well. So that's where you can put that information in. Now, let's have a look next at the filters. Now, I'll go to enter assessment to show you that. Now, within iASEND, there is a filters button, which is at the top. Now, it does come with statutory filters. These are the dark blue ones, and then the red ones are ones I've made. You can make your own filters. That's absolutely no problem. To do that, you'll need to go to Manage Attributes. Now, if you're adding filters, it is really useful to sort of track interventions as well, because obviously that's where you can see the progress. So you select the attribute name. So I'm going to call it, let's say EHCP. I'm going to delete the EHCPs that's already there. So I'm going to call this EHCP 2020. I then select the attribute type. So I've got, yes, they're having an EHCP, no, they're not. Or I can do a text box and put some further information about that. If I choose yes, no, it comes up with the default value of yes, they are, no, they're not, and I can then select the least common one to save time, or I can choose text box. I'm going to show you text box just for this particular scenario. So I'm going to add the attribute. So that's added it, but I haven't allocated them to any children. So what I need to do is I click pupil details. I select the attribute that I've just made. So we said EHCP 2020. I then choose the year group. I'm going to choose year 2. And you can see it's now come up. Now I'm just going to put random things in here for the moment. Now you'll notice I'm putting blue, red, and then I'm going to put blue again. Now, what you'll notice is that I put capital letter for Joel, but not for Joe. Our system is clever, but not that clever. So unfortunately, that would come out as it would come out as 3 separate groups, you know, blue with capital letter, red with capital letter, and blue with lowercase. So just make sure that you are putting the right, you know, similar, consistent with your capitalization, full stops, everything else like that. Now, as I mentioned before, if you need to remove a child from the system, you need to click the delete button. However, it is important to export that information from your account because, like I said before, once they're deleted, they're out the system. Now, the other thing that you'll need to do once you've got a child in the system is the pupil starting point. So the starting point is setting up where they are for each subject. Now you have got the option to apply all selected to all subjects, so you don't have to go through each individual one, but you may have a couple of discrepancies. Now it has got a key here. Like I said, it's not the P levels, it's just a similar attainment. So just make sure that you're filling that information in. If you've got a child that's working between 2 curriculums, go for the lower one. That way you can then measure that progress accordingly. Now, the last thing I want to mention is our backup and restore data. This is where the system creates a backup twice a week. If you find that perhaps that some of your staff override the data over the half term, so let's just say I did all of my data from September to October half term, and then my teachers come in after October half term and they come back and start overriding assessment point 1 by accident. A way to get around that so that doesn't happen is what you can do as the admin is at the end of the half term or during the half term is to create a backup. That way, if your teachers do accidentally override it, they can go back to that point in time before then. There's unfortunately no way to transfer it. So it is really important that your teachers are trying to put in the data in the correct place. But if not, creating a backup is always a good safety belt. So, as I said, that's sort of all the admin parts that we were going to cover today. Like I said, if you have any questions, pop us an email at support@lcp.co.uk. Thank you ever so much for watching.